The Partido Socialista de Malasia is very disturbed by the escalation of efforts by the US government to destabilize the government of Venezuela. On 27th March, the US Department of Justice accused the Venezuelan government of narco-terrorism. They allege that Venezuela is aiding and enabling Colombian drug cartels to send huge amounts of cocaine to countries in Central America so that these drugs can be sent to the US to aggravate the drug epidemic in the US. Mr. William Barr, the US Attorney General, indicted Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, as well as 14 other senior leaders of the Venezuelan government for supporting the Colombian drug cartels. The US announced a reward of USD 15 million for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. On the 1st of April, President Trump announced that a US naval task force will be sent to the Caribbean to counter this so-called narco-terrorism. This will be the largest naval force in the Caribbean for the past 30 years. Venezuela has earned the wrath of the US because it dared to suggest an alternative to neoliberal capitalism. Venezuela attempted to distribute the wealth of the country to the ordinary people of the country. Venezuela used public funds to set up thousands of clinics in underserved poor areas and embarked on ambitious adult education program. Venezuela developed local democracy by setting up community councils all over the country so that ordinary people could have a say in how their communities were run and how services were provided. Venezuela also spoke up against the free trade agreement that the US was trying to set up in Latin America. Instead, Venezuela attempted to build an alternative regional bloc based on solidarity among the people and programs for the 99% and not for the corporate class. From the vantage point of corporate America, Venezuela is a bad example for other third world countries. Venezuela is giving substance to the notion that a better world is possible, that a society based on principle of human solidarity is possible. Venezuela is proving that the dictum enunciated by Margaret Thatcher, that there is no alternative to neoliberal policies, is just plainly wrong. There are alternatives, but the corporate elite do not like those alternatives. Venezuela's attempt to develop an alternative to neoliberal capitalism has infuriated the corporate elite in the United States. As a result, the US has been trying for the past 20 years to bring about regime change in Venezuela. The PSM position is simple. The allegations of narco-terrorism are serious, and they construe a crime against humanity. If the US really has evidence that Nicolas Maduro and his government are aiding and abetting drug cartels to flood the US with illegal drugs, the US authorities should lay this out at the United Nations or press formal charges at the International Court of Justice. Present your evidence there and let the Venezuelan government answer to the charges and let the people of the world make a decision. The US cannot act as if it is still the colonial era and send in gunboats. This is the 21st century. People across the world are not going to respect the US if it tries to push its way around just using military might. The US has to respect multinational institutions like the UN and attempt to resolve differences of opinion there. We in the PSM understand that it is impossible to talk reason and present rational arguments to the current president of the US and his team. They are beyond science and rationality and seem to believe that falsehoods, if repeated often and loudly enough, will somehow transform into the truth. But there is a price to pay for that kind of foolishness. Unfortunately, this price is often disproportionately borne by the poorer sectors of our society. It is now the ordinary people of America who are paying the price of their president ignoring and downplaying the seriousness of the COVID epidemic. The PSM would like to address the people of the US. We would like you to think back to 1990, when the US leadership claimed that Iraqi soldiers were ripping babies from the incubators in a Kuwaiti hospital and throwing them on the floor to die. That argument swayed US public opinion towards supporting the 1991 invasion of Iraq. Remember your Secretary of State, Mr. Colin Powell, telling the UN Security Council in February 2003 that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction armed and ready for launch within 40 minutes. That served as a reason for the Second Iraq War. You, the ordinary citizens of the US, have to stop your president from committing another act of aggression against yet another third world country. You have to speak out and say, not in my name, not in the name of the American people. The PSM salutes the ordinary people of Venezuela who have stood with their government despite the fact that economic sanctions by the US have caused tremendous hardships to the entire population of Venezuela. We wish the people of Venezuela all the best in your effort to control the COVID epidemic, to withstand US attempts to engineer a coup, to stabilize your economy despite the sanctions, and to resume the work of building a society based on solidarity. We too believe that a better world is within our reach. We are the many, they are the few. Let us all work together for a better future for humanity.